Hi, everybody. So it is just me today, but I am talking about one of my absolute favorite topics when it comes to health and reversing autoimmune disease and how to deal with chronic illness. And that is gratitude, which a lot of people really think that, in order to feel better, in order to change your health, in order to do this functional medicine thing, in order to, do all of those things, that it has everything to do with diet and the supplements that you take and the sleep and the stress reduction, all of those things. But oftentimes there are other elements at play that can make a huge difference when it comes to how we feel in our body and how our body responds and how it heals. And one of those things is gratitude. And given that this is a holiday week, Thanksgiving is coming up for those of us who are here in the United States. A lot of people are thinking about gratitude, and it might just be gratitude around the food that they're about ready to eat. But there are a lot of things to be grateful for. And what I wanted to talk about today is, how does gratitude really change our neurochemistry in our brain and our biochemistry in the body? And so, if you think about it, it's an emotion, right? And an emotion has a lot to do with how our body reacts from a biochemical standpoint. So when we think of thought in the brain, that triggers an emotion. That emotion is usually felt through chemical messengers in the body in various different places in the body. So if you think about, gratitude, we kind of feel it here in our heart. Or if we think about anxiety, we kind of feel it in our stomach, right? So we feel those biochemical sensors or biochemical signaling molecules, we feel those in different areas of the body, and they can have a lot of an effect on our biochemistry and how our body is reacting. And overall, when we are feeling these different emotions, it can have either a positive supportive effect on the body, or it can have a negative effect on the body or add additional stress on the body. So as I go through explaining some of these concepts, if you're watching live and you've got some comments, feel free to pop them in the comment box below. And if I've got some time at the end, I'll do some Q&A. But first of all, let's talk about gratitude and how it affects the brain and the biochemistry. So there's several different articles that have been published in terms of how it can change the biochemistry. But one thing that can happen with gratitude, when we are experiencing that emotion and feeling gratitude, that can act in the brain as a neurotransmitter, kind of like an antidepressant. So positive thinking and gratitude can activate these certain neurotransmitters like dopamine, like serotonin, and some others that can really help us with low mood or depression. So that's one way that it can change in the brain. And then the other way is that, gratitude is changing your brain's neural pathways by helping us switch our nervous system. So when we are in stress or we are in uncertainty, so all of 2020 has been uncertain for a lot of us. When we are in that stressed state, our nervous system is in what's called fight or flight. It's in the sympathetic nervous system. And so that is when our nervous system is working on things like making sure we have as much energy to the cells, as much oxygen to the cells. But what it's not doing when we're in that sympathetic nervous system state is it's not allowing us to digest our food very well, and it's not allowing us to get into healing states of the body. So if we are dealing with chronic illness and we are experiencing those emotions of stress or anxiety, that kind of thing, we're literally keeping our body from doing any repair type activity. And so one thing that's really amazing about gratitude is that it gets the body to switch into that parasympathetic side of the body. So a lot of the clients that I work with have autoimmune disease and or have had chronic illness for a long period of time. And it's very, very common for them to be in a state where they find that they just can't relax, they don't know how to wind down, they have insomnia, they've got racing thoughts. This year has not been much better. There's been the uncertainty about the pandemic, the uncertainty about election. Some people have actually had to deal with wildfire emergencies. So our sympathetic nervous system has basically been on overdrive. And even before 2020, when I was working with clients previous to this, same kind of thing. Their nervous system can actually get stuck in this sympathetic state. So one of the techniques and tools that I like to use is cultivating gratitude and a gratitude practice, because that immediately shifts the body over into a parasympathetic state. And the more that we can shift into that nervous system state, the more we can train our body to get into that physiological response. As well as when we sleep, that's when the healing cycles can occur. So if you're having trouble with sleeping because you're always in this go, 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 fight or flight nervous system state, then oftentimes those clients don't see a lot of healing along their healing journey. So really shifting into gratitude can help them with that. So one thing I wanted to share with you guys, this is going to be the first time I've done a screen share, so I'm going to try and do a screen share real quick, but I wanted to share with you guys a scale. It's a visual representation of a scale of the frequencies that have been graphed now that are associated with the various different emotions, and gratitude is on there. So let me see if I can do this real quick. I'm going to share the screen and hopefully, oh, you know what? Application window. Yes, I'm going to be able to figure this out. This is awesome. Okay, cool. So this is the emotional guidance scale. And I love this graph because on here are a bunch of different emotions, and you've got the downward spiral and you've got the upward spiral. And what scientists have been able to do is they've been able to measure the actual frequency in hertz or in megahertz, and what that frequency is when we are feeling these certain emotions. And what we have also found is that frequency triggers some of the biochemical reaction as well as the response from our nervous system to be able to activate the parasympathetic versus sympathetic. It's a little bit more complex than that, of course, but what's really, really fascinating here is that when you are looking at this scale, and I'm not certain if you can see my mouse, so I'll just describe it, but when you're looking at this upward spiral, these are all of the joyful, happy, like feel good emotions, right? Contentment, hopeful, optimism, enthusiasm, passion, gratitude, joy, love, appreciation. All of those things are kind of at the top. And then if you look at the downward spiral, those are the more negative emotions: boredom, frustration, overwhelm, disappointment, worry, anxiety, anger, hatred, rage, jealousy, all of those things. And they're very much associated with the fight or flight versus the rest and digest part of the nervous system. So everything in the downward spiral has to do with the fight or flight part of the nervous system, and everything with the upward spiral has a lot to do with the healing part of the nervous system. So I always find that a really fun image to kind of see the difference between the two. But with gratitude in general, one of the things that we have found is that there was a study done by Dr. Joe Dispenza. He did this when he was doing some live events, and he had participants at his live events, and his 4-day workshops practice cultivating gratitude. And he really wanted to take a look at how do we bridge the gap between some of the emotion psychology side of science and the immune system side of science. And so he conducted this experiment, which I find totally fascinating. So he asked each of the participants participating in his workshop to collect a saliva sample at the beginning of the workshop and then again at the end of the workshop. And what they were collecting and looking for is they were looking for a compound called secretory IgA, which is an immunoglobulin that is created in our digestive system, saliva, that kind of thing. And it's representative of how well our immune system is functioning. So it's basically the first responder, if you will. It's the first antibody that is generated by the immune system when we have a very healthy immune system. So we as practitioners use secretory IgA a lot to really understand what is the status of somebody's immune system. So they collected these samples before and after the workshop. And what they found after the workshop, what they asked them to do was they asked them to cultivate gratitude for not very long, like 5, maybe 10 minutes, 3 times a day. So that really was finding something that you're grateful for, really feeling that emotion and sitting in that emotion for 5 or 10 minutes, 3 times a day. And they did that for 4 days. And what was really astounding is that by the end of the workshop, on average, across all of the participants, the secretory IgA raised by 43%. Now that is really, really statistically significant, because in most studies, when we're looking at how do we boost the immune system, do we boost the immune system with, adaptogenic herbs? Do we boost it with colostrum? Do we boost it with all of these different things? It's never by 43%. It's maybe by, something significant would be maybe 10, 15%, not 43%. And it just is, to me, it's just so amazing, because here it is an emotion, and it's raising secretory IgA by 43%. So what we know about cultivating gratitude is, we can, through the practice of feeling these emotions, we can have a massive effect on whether or not our body is healing, in addition to whether or not our immune system is functioning at a very strong level. So as we go into the winter, as we go into the second wave of the pandemic, this is something that is really important, is being able to have these things in our toolbox of how can we boost our immune system. People are out there grabbing vitamin D and vitamin C and doing all of these other things, but it's actually as simple as cultivating gratitude. So I've been talking a lot about this in the Facebook group this week and on my email list this week, but some of the ways that you can cultivate gratitude, you can start a gratitude journal. If writing out helps you remember the things that you're grateful for or things that you're appreciating, that is fantastic. It doesn't have to be that hard. I know that in the beginning, when I started with this, I just could not come up with things to write in the journal. So if it is simply going outside and appreciating the nature around you, or appreciating somebody in your life, or appreciating the oxygen that we are breathing, and how amazing is it that our lungs can exchange that for CO2, like really simple things can bring on a feeling of gratitude. It does not have to be a big thing. There's no judgment in it. So really the trick is, how can you either start with journaling or get yourself to really appreciate and think the thoughts, but also feel the feeling, like feel the appreciation in your heart. That's where we're triggering the nervous system. That's where we're actually triggering that biochemical cascade to be able to support the immune system and boost our secretory IgA. So using a journal is a great way to do it. Sometimes you can do it in meditation, in prayer. Sometimes you can do it while you're out on your walk. Lots of different ways that you can use gratitude, but really the most important piece of it is cultivating it as a habit. And so bringing that together as a habit. And if you need help with that, feel free to reach out, post some comments, reach out to me. I help my clients with this all the time. This is one of the best things that we work on during their work with me when we're working on their health. And so, there's lots of different ways to do it. I'm actually going to be coming up with a challenge at the end of the year to do a little bit of mindset work and come up with a challenge. But that is one way to really simply start. And it doesn't have to be long. 30 seconds, a couple minutes of really appreciating what is around you can have all of those changes with your neurochemistry and your biochemistry. And it's just amazing. So enjoy this holiday week. Enjoy cultivating your gratitude practice. If you've got comments, questions, need some tips or tricks, I'm always here for you. And I'm wishing everybody a wonderful holiday week, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.